Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Smash JT. In this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at older games for cheap, and I'm calling this segment The Budget Gamer. So I'm looking at, in this case, the N64, and I took 10 titles under $10 so that you can start a collection and have some awesome games ready to go. So without further ado, let's get to the list. Alright guys, so keep in mind, this is not a top 10 list of N64 games. This is just 10 awesome games for under $10. So I'm going to be putting them in order from cheapest to most expensive, but all of them are under $10. The first one I'm going to be starting with is Waialae Country Club Golf. This one you can get on eBay right now, shipped for $4 to your house. Now I know you're thinking, well Jeff, it's a golf game, it's a sports game, no wonder it's cheap. But this is a really fun golf game, and if you haven't tried it, it's definitely worth your $4. It's got ultra-realistic graphics for the time, and the gameplay is spot on. Give it a shot. I mean, it's $4. $4! The game takes place in Honolulu, Hawaii, at the real-life golf course named Waialae Country Club. The game only has 18 holes, though each one is masterfully recreated to create a lifelike golfing simulation. It's one of the most fun experiences I've had playing golf, especially for back in the day, and I love going back to it now. Alright, now moving on to the next one, just a quick note. A lot of these games aren't going to be for everyone, but I absolutely love all of them, and if you're not sure about it, they're cheap enough to take a jump on it because you might be surprised how much you like it. The reason why I bring that up is the next one I'm going to talk about is a wrestling game. Wcw Nwo Revenge is the best wrestling game I have ever played, which is saying a lot because I played a lot of these back in the day with my friends and a lot of them sucked, and this one really stuck out as being fun, mostly because the 4-player action was unrivaled before Smash Brothers came out. Most fighting games only had one-on-one, and when you could do a 4-player battle, this game really shined. And right now you can get it on eBay, shipped for $5. Released in 1998, it's a sequel to 97's WCW vs. NWO World Tour. Like its predecessor, Revenge features a revolutionary grappling system, as well as a heavily improved graphics, championship mode, and a larger roster of wrestlers. Revenge gained critical praise and tremendous commercial success. According to a 1999 article by IGN, Revenge was a best-selling wrestling game for the N64, and at the time, was the top-selling third-party Nintendo game ever made. Which is shocking because it was made by THQ and they're defunct now. Alright guys, the next one I'm going to talk about is my all-time favorite hockey game ever made, beating out NHL 93 on the Genesis. Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey on the N64 is the best hockey game I have ever played. Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey does for hockey what NBA Jam did for basketball. So if you haven't played it yet, definitely give it a shot. Right now it's only $6 on eBay. As opposed to the more realistic ice hockey gameplay seen in the EA NHL series, this game featured a more unrealistic, arcade style of gameplay, featuring moves such as power saves, which caused the goaltender to briefly transform into a brick wall, power shots, which would set the net on fire or knock the goalie into the net, power checks, which would send an ambulance across the top of the screen. It was hysterical and so much fun to play. Alright, and a few of these actually made my top 10 for the N64 games ever. And they cost less than $10 shipped to your house. So if you have an N64 and you don't have these games, you definitely need to pick them up. The next one I'm going to talk about is Waverace 64. This game right now is $7 shipped on eBay. And it's some of the most fun 2-player racing that you can have. I spoke about this during my top 10 N64, I believe it was an honorable mention, but just a quick footnote for this. During the development of Waverace 64, it was originally developed as a racing game featuring futuristic speedboats that changed forms by retracting or expanding themselves, as shown in footage by a '95 Nintendo show. And during the development, it was planned as a successor for F-Zero. The next game I'm going to be talking about is more of a hidden gem in the collection, but it's one of my personal favorites that didn't make my top 10. Blast Corps. For $7, you can have Blast Corps. Now you might be asking yourself, what the hell is Blast Corps? If you've never heard of it, definitely look into it. It's a lot of pointless fun. You drive different vehicles around and try to destroy buildings or accomplish different goals that they set each mission. It's a lot of fun, and definitely worth the $7 to ship it to your house. Released in 1997, Blast Corps is a game in which the player uses vehicles to destroy buildings in the path of a runaway nuclear missile carrier. The game has 57 levels, and the player needs to solve the puzzles by transferring between vehicles to move objects and bridge gaps. The puzzle game mechanics in the game were inspired by those of Donkey Kong, released in 1994, and this game is a true hidden gem that you really need to play to appreciate. Now this one, I can't believe it costs less than $10, and it's probably not going to be under this for very long, so if you don't own Perfect Dark, definitely get Perfect Dark. It's some of the most fun multiplayer shooter action you can have on the N64 outside of GoldenEye. Yes, it's made by Rare, and yes, it's a quasi-sequel to it, but I like the one-player mode a lot in this game. So if you haven't played the single-player campaign yet, it's definitely worth the price of admission for $8 shipped. Perfect Dark was developed over the course of 3 years and used an upgraded version of the GoldenEye 007 engine. The game met with critical acclaim and commercial success upon release, with selling more than 3 million units worldwide. It's a ton of fun to play even now. Alright, now there have been a lot of Star Wars games that have come out for a lot of different systems, including like 5 for the N64, but there's one in particular that you definitely need to play on the N64 if you haven't already. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. If for nothing else, it's $8, and the first level of this game is one of the most fun levels I've ever played in my life. You control a spaceship trying to take down a walking AT-AT. It is some insane action, and if you haven't tried it yet, it's definitely worth the $8 on eBay. Developed and published by LucasArts, and primarily a third-person shooter, the game also utilizes multiple types of vehicular combat sequences. It was released on the Nintendo 64 on December 3rd, 1996. In the game, the player controls the mercenary Dash Rendar in his efforts to help Luke Skywalker and rescue Princess Leia from Prince Xizor's hands. It was part of the Star Wars Shadows of the Empire multimedia project and takes place as a backstory between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The next game I want to talk about was also on my top 10 N64 games of all time, so if this is not in your collection, go get it right now. 1080 Snowboarding is $8 online, which is just mind-blowing to me because it's so much fun still. But I talked about this one enough during my top 10, so if you haven't seen that yet, check that video out. 1080 Snowboarding released in 1998 on the Nintendo 64, and the game was successful enough to warrant a sequel on the GameCube titled 1080 Avalanche. But I still prefer the original. It was so fun. The next game I want to talk about is Winback Covert Operations. It's a kind of a stealth action-adventure game. Came out around the time of Siphon Filter for the PlayStation, if you recall that game. It's a lot of fun, a little bit rough around the edges, so don't expect a perfect gameplay experience, and for the $8 price of having it shipped to your house, it's definitely worth it. Released in 1999, Winback is most notable for influencing other third-person action shooters such as Metal Gear Solid 2, which in turn influenced other games like Gears of War, with the cover system mechanic and the laser sight mechanic, which have gone on to become staples in many third-person shooters since this. Alright guys, and the last game we're going to be talking about today is Jet Force Gemini, made by Rare. When this game came out, it got pretty good reviews, generally 8 out of 10s across the board from all the reputable sites. But it only costs $8 right now, and it doesn't hold up as well as some of the other games did, but it's still a lot of fun to play. The first half of the game especially was a lot of fun. The second half gets a little bit repetitive with the backtracking because of the cart space limitations, but it's a lot of fun, and if you haven't played it yet, it's definitely worth the $8. Jet Force Gemini is a third-person shooter video game developed and published by Rare, released in 1999. The game features a single-player mode where you can explore the galaxy and save tribals, and also includes a multiplayer mode where 2 to 4 players can compete in traditional deathmatch game. In 2015, Jet Force Gemini was included as part of the Rare Replay video game compilation on the Xbox One, but I always prefer the original. And yes, there are a whole bunch more games for the N64 that are under $10, but those are the 10 that you definitely need in your collection, and if you don't have any N64 games and you're thinking of starting a collection, it's a really cheap, easy way to build an awesome collection for $69.
69.
And no, I didn't just pick games that would amount to that number. But if you consider when these games came out, they were $60 brand new plus tax. That's literally about 69 bucks, and you get 10 awesome games for the price of one new game back in the day. And if you don't have an N64 collection, you might be asking yourself, why the hell would I start an N64 collection? I don't really even care about those games, or I'm not really into those. Well, mark my words, when we look back, the N64 will be the most valuable console out there. Because of the combination of really hard to emulate with a really unique controller, the N64 just, you can't beat it without just having it. You just have to have the N64 to play these games and truly enjoy them the way they were meant to be played. And in case you're wondering what made me start collecting the N64 games, it was a combination of value, quality, and scarcity, mixed with a little bit of nostalgia. And when you put all those things together, the N64 just has all of that. And I might be a little biased with it, but you can't argue. The games are incredible, and you get a ton of value for the price right now. So keep that in mind going forward. I hope you guys learned something about these games in this episode, and let me know if you have any other questions on them. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.